The game has changed, and all of a sudden, raking is a mechanic everyone needs. So welcome to the art of raking. I call it an art because in all fairness, it's not a science. It's not a production. It involves many moving parts to get a perfect rake, and it really takes skill and talent and experience. Now, I'm telling you that raking is super important for naval action now, fully knowing that you will use it against me. However, it will take you many hours of practice for you to get proficient at raking. So let's get started. This AI fleet has 1 5th rate, 5 4th rates, and 2 3rd rates. Because of recent damage nerfs applied to all cannon, it will take me a long time to kill these ships through their broadside where most of their hit point values are kept. So I want to rake as much as possible. To help us do this, we need to set our graphics up right. Go into graphics, go down to an option called Fire Zone Visual. Make sure that you are on Geometry. On Projected, your fire zone rides the waves, and it's really kind of, for me, hard to choose. So I use Geometric or Geometry setting. That will just project my fire zone visual right across the wave. So even if it's distant, I can see where my cannonballs should be aimed. The apex of the reticle shrinks and expands as you elevate and lower your gun. So here, it's very tight on the stern of this ship. Tracing shot, open fire. And if you've noticed, I was turning my rudder slightly to the right to help the back cannons go through, and I got 35 hits. That's a good strike. I see an opportunity for a rake coming up on the 5th rate here. So my guns just need to come up in time. I start maneuvering for it, but then it's rudder amidship so that everything stabilizes out before I shoot. Come on, guns, come on. There we go. Okay, only 24 hits. You could do a lot better, but 5th rates have such pathetically small hit point pools that you don't need a perfect strike. So for all you noobs out there in your 5th rate, just understand if a 3rd rate lines up on your stern, it's bye-bye if they get even a halfway decent strike on you. Word is that the devs increase the damage modifier from 180% to 300%, and that's why just glancing rake will damage the smaller ships, which also got a huge hit point nerf too. So really, you're gonna get killed through the stern, the bow, or the sides regardless, because you're just in a small ship. A lot of people on Reddit say the solution is just don't be around a big ship. Which to me sounds like just don't play the game. I don't think Game Labs is wanting to send that message, but that might be the message they're sending. Your target has to be at the right angle to your guns. If not, as you can see, you don't get the results that you want. So that's another variable that makes raking kind of tricky. So now I'm just looking for a target as my guns reload, trying to figure out what to go to next. You've got to pan around. When you're raking, it really doesn't matter how you maneuver your ship, just as long as you do get shots at a stern. I mean, as long as they don't rake you and you rake them, you win. And no, AI don't rake. Players rake. Loki's rake. you'll see me checking to make sure I don't get Loki. But a Loki rake can hurt. And a Loki is just where another player activates a in-game token that lets them take control of an AI ship that you're fighting. And there is an indicator. I can show you what that is, but that's for another time. I'm setting up for a bow rake. And bow rakes are tricky, especially as they're turning away from you. As you can see, not much damage. It's just tricky. I probably should have tried to get an angle on the USS, but I'm already high in the wind, and getting that angle probably would have been not happening. There's so many maneuvers you have to pull off and think about to get the rake. It's an art form. It's satisfying when you pull it off, obviously, but there is a lot going on. Much more than appears. Now, pay attention to my rudder key as I'm doing this shooting and what my sails are doing. And then you might start to realize the complexity of the maneuvers going on. But it is subtle, and that I think is a good thing. Otherwise, rakes would be far too commonplace. And nobody likes easy... if we're just going to delete a ship with the delete key, then why would we play the game? There's got to be challenge to make this accomplishing a good rake rewarding. And it certainly is. Especially when you have a buff damage multiplier, as we do right now. Let's talk about how the sweeping your guns forward and back changes your aim. As you move forward and backwards, your fire zone spreads. If you're pointing all your guns forward, you're gonna have a hard time hitting a small stern. So, great if you're trying to hit a broadside. But for precision, you need the cone of your fire zone to be as small as possible. And speaking to that, if you have Caros on your top deck, they will have a much larger fire zone projection, even though you're firing all your guns at once. So turn your Caros off and you have a smaller fire zone visual. And you're going to see what a perfect broadside strike does. Dead. Delete key. I think it's a little overtuned. I don't really like being that effective because once you figure out how to do it, it's not that challenging, and therefore doesn't feel like you achieved very much. So really the only problem I have here is I have a lot of ships I need to hit the delete key on. And the only challenge to that is they're faster and more agile, and I just have to look around and make opportune strikes. This is a perfect example of me missing my shot. My ship was still turning. I didn't get my rudder to midships fast enough, and my shot just slewed across his hull. It didn't all go into his bow. I really needed to be more careful and take my time. A number of the fourth rates have been deleted, and now it's about time to work on these bigger third rates. They have more hit points, they have more armor, and so they should be a bit harder to kill with a perfect rate. And I'm just demonstrating the amount of hit point values they have on their broadside. I'm a second rate, that's a third rate. He is a long way from dying. Some people like this, some people don't. I personally don't, because it completely changes the mechanics of combat that we've enjoyed in this game for years and years. And really, I didn't think it was that necessary. Let's talk about my hit points. I got a damage nerf. They got a damage nerf. I still have plenty of hit points despite being surrounded by 8 or 9 ships, all shooting at me. Again, this is controversial. Some players love this, but I think it's because they like being invulnerable. They didn't like having to angle and defend against AI. In the previous iteration, nobody did this. This would have been suicide. Here we go, a bow rake. And this is my first good bow rake. It's opened up his armor, it's done 15-20% of structure damage. Immediately looking left, a third rate, presenting stern. Full armor on the stern, let's see what happens. And there goes his hit points. He has 10-15% left. Stern rakes seem to be easier to achieve max damage on. That Wassa actually has less hit points than this third rater Bellona, but the Bellona took more damage. So I'm trying to get a rake on this Ingerman land, but the AI tend to start turning when you go for the rake, and the player would do that too, so it's really difficult. Now, yeah, he presented his turn, but I just can't maneuver fast enough to hit that. That is the downside of being in a first rate, a second rate. Any ship that can be outmaneuvered, they're gonna struggle to get these rakes. So I think I'm gonna go try to range rake on this Wassa here. He's presenting the best opportunity. Always do a striking test shot. So I got 35 through, but my shot wasn't aimed right, or he was angled right to where it didn't trigger the devastating strike. It just soaked up the shot. Close in, hard to get a rake when you're this close, but I can single shot into his stern, start working on his stern hit point armor. In rear, and just looking for a shot. It's not like I'm dying anytime soon, so I might as well take my time. That's just what this game is about right now. I thought 100-meter convergence was right. I was wrong. Most of my ball went right past him. I should have been on water. It's an art. You don't get every rake. But you don't need to. You just need to get enough. Me and this Wassa have a thing about bow rakes. Just switched to firing from bow. I determined, you know, it's just going to work better. And I was right. Wassa deleted. There really is no range that a rake won't work. I have seen players get devastating strikes at ranges 3 or 4 times what I just did. On first rates too. Raking is the skill to have in bringing a confrontation to a speedy end. If you've paid attention to the compass, I am in the wind, I am reversing, I am setting up for what I call a reverse rake. Trying to get my convergence right, and that's pretty satisfying. Reverse rakes are probably the hardest rakes, and it can really surprise people if you're in a PvP situation and you pull that off, because they don't expect you to be able to do that. And honestly, I'm always surprised when I manage to do it too, because more often than not, it's a whiff. However, every shot you don't take is a whiff, and this time it paid off. So I'm setting up, but this isn't looking good. So it's a no-go. That's a judgment call you gotta make. Save your broadside, look for your next opportunity to rake. At this point, I've decided my hit points are getting a little low. We're 22 minutes into the match. Let's get the ship healthier. Thanks to Game Labs adding more crew than I really need, there's always 100 crew members on damage control. That's the 8 key. I would like them to go to my standard repair party, so I turn the 8 key off. And that'll add more crew, and that'll speed up how fast I repair. Doesn't change the amount I repair, just gets it done faster, which in a real PvP fight used to be super crucial. Not so much anymore. Alright, next rake. Here it is. Deleted. He gave that to me. Good example of firing too soon on a bow rate. He's coming into the wind, and this is when I should have fired. With just 3 ships remaining, they're going to be maneuvering around me and making it difficult to get rakes. And this is where the stern raking mechanics just break down. Because whenever a ship is more agile, faster than your ship, and there's more of them, it's a pretty bad deal for you. Your only real option is to shoot through the side and wear them down. And as you can tell, it's gonna take a lot of time to do that. I mean, these are 4th rates. They're the smallest big ships that got the hit point buff. And if these were 3rd rates, my goodness, this would be a 40-50 minutes just to wear down their side, and then they can always turn the other side. So it's a result of nerfing cannon damage, in some cases up to 83%, and then buffing hit points by 121%. I'm looking for it, but he's gonna outmaneuver me, and that broadside's just going to reduce some rear armor, not give any real meaningful progress. This guy turns in because this is the pro move. Present your broadside to a 2nd rate if you want to survive. Wait a minute, what's he doing? Oh, he's gonna give, well, goodbye. Oh no, and see, I whiffed. I didn't watch my speed, I didn't slow down, didn't set it up right, and most of the broadside went past. It's easy to do. Raking is an art form. You have to practice, practice, and practice. It is not a guarantee, and that's going to drag this fight on a lot longer. Here's a good example of what raking damage used to do before we had the devastating strike modifier. It would just kind of chunk away at the center structure, and you just keep chunking away. And sometime last year, Game Labs decided, oh, let's do a modifier. And now we get the devastating strike where it just disappears if you get a good enough shot. Personally, I like the old way. It was effective enough, and it didn't overly reward people who used special guns that gave them superior accuracy, and the players who just min-max for one effect. Raking was a tool in the arsenal, not the only plan. I'm not a big fan of the limited options that we have nowadays. I like having multiple options where you have to make a decision and accept the trade-offs that that decision brings. And if you are good and you do it right, you're rewarded with a victory. And if not, you lose. Regarding PvP, I don't like this Russian roulette of, can I rake you better than you rake me? Again, this is a rake, more like a legacy rake from prior to the devastating strike modifier being added into game. It really didn't do that much, but it was a lot better option for a smaller ship to do that than try to go through the sides. Plus, you turned your side in as a fourth rate to first rate, you lost half your broadside. Nowadays, if a first rate shoots you, you lose 8%, 6%. It's really much, much different. And at this point, I've just decided, probably faster just to shoot through the broadside and get damage in, because they are, well, yeah, I thought maybe he was presenting, but no, he turns back and does the pro move, turn broadside. Gonna blink at his stern. Single shotting is actually highly effective in shallow water. You'll just delete them single shots. But that's because they only have like 800 hit points. When you put any sort of modifier on that, they just disappear. I thought he was presenting, but no, he actually turns back to put the broadside, and this is the frustrating part. Now, you can bring your own AI into these fights, and then they respond differently. It was a lot easier for me to get rakes when there were so many other AI that they were having to navigate around each other. But if you bring your own AI in, then they focus on shooting it, and that kind of helps you get opportune rakes on ships. Okay, here's an opportune rake. I'm gonna take it. Setting it up carefully, watching my speed, my ship's turn. Giving some rudder, and the multiplier kicks in and he's gone. When you do it right, it deletes them. When you don't do it right, but if you can't get the rake, you just have a slog through their side hit points. And it's not that they have such great amount of hit points. Your damage is just pathetic compared to what it's ever been in this game. A 50% reduction when you're considering a first rate's firepower. That's a huge radical change in an MMO that's been launched for 3 or 4 years. I used to play EVE Online, and when one of the classes of ships lost 1% of power, the community just lost their mind. A 50% nerf in EVE, across the board for all ships, TCP would lose so many subscribers. Yeah, I don't know what wave jumped up and absorbed all my shots. I think he activated his deflector shields. And you know I'm gonna try it. Oh, that's gotta be the best one I've ever done. Oh, it worked, but my gosh, that's lucky. At this point, I'm pretty resigned to just shooting through the side armor. And then I see this. And this is what you want to see. This is a cue that everything's going to work. Now, I've evened up my sails to slow down. I'm taking my time. There. And he's gone. I know this is kind of big on demonstration and light on actual instruction, but I hope you also got the sense that it's mainly practice and getting a feel for your ship, your fire zone visual, how your ship shoots, because every ship has a slightly different firing pattern. Every ship turns slightly different. Every ship maneuvers in the wind differently. It's practice. Lots and lots and lots of practice. We're talking easily hundreds of hours, unless you are naturally talented at this. I have met a few players who are just amazing at stern raking, but to me, it's never come easy. It just is work, 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 work. The developers, when they brought this patch out that requires raking, they said that this made it easier for new players. I guess if you're a new player in a third rate, that makes sense because you can no longer be killed through your side. But honestly, in a PvP situation, if you can't do damage, you're eventually going to die. The more experienced player who's better at raking is going to get those rakes, because mistakes compound on top of mistakes, and the longer you go, the more likely you'll make a mistake and just die. You have to be able to do damage. So I hope this helps in some small way. Leave your comments in the description, and I look forward to discussing and helping out. And I'll also include my Discord link in case anyone wants to ask further questions. But this is mostly harmless entertainment, showing you that raking is an art form.